What time is it? What time is it? That's the question that artist Slauson Malone asked crowd members after jumping into the pit at his Brooklyn concert this past, I think it was April. What time is it? Some people replied, I don't know. Others stated the literal time. I think it was probably about that point, 9:53 p.m. Taking a wild guess there. But most people just stared blankly back at him. Didn't know how to respond. He never responded to the answers either. There was no indication of whose was correct, if any actually were. But by looking through his artistic catalog, we can find a series of solutions embedded in his work's deeper meanings, references, and creative choices. You see, Jasper Marsalis, the man behind Slauson Malone, explores the idea of blackness in a series of art titled Creator Speak. In his 3 musical projects, there are recurring song formats that are aptly titled as such: Smile number 1, Smile number 2, Smile number 6, etc., or The Wake Part 1 and 2, and The Wake Part 3 and 2, as well as many others. It's easy to tell which tracks stem from the same arrangement due to their names. Slauson's performance art under the name Slauson Malone 1 with cellist Nikki Wetherall also utilizes these song formats and adapts them to a new delivery method. Additionally, many song titles end with C page number. This refers to a book of annotated theory, poetry, prose, and pop culture images that Slauson compiled, which often elaborates on the themes presented in the songs that they correspond to. It's actually a pretty rare find, especially the second edition. Not to flex, but that's what I have. I have the second edition of this book. That's where I got a lot of my research from for this video, actually. Slauson Malone, in Creator Speak, argues that blackness is inevitably traumatic and oppression is inescapable, and therefore invites consumers of his art to realize the impending collapse of the world and welcome it with open arms. He wants others to realize the hopelessness of his existence and, by association, theirs. He wants us, bluntly, to give up. To examine his music, we first must realize that Slauson Malone doesn't subscribe to typical musical standards. Instead, he is musicking. In the prelude of this book, Musicking by Christopher Small, he defines this term. To music is to take part in any capacity in a musical performance, whether by performing, by listening, by rehearsing or practicing, by providing material for performance, what is called composing, or by dancing. In other words, musicking is engaging with music in any capacity whatsoever, at all. So when Slauson Malone jumped into the crowd and asked what time it was, he was musicking. So were those who answered him, shouted at him, laughed, and reached out to grab him. So was the person controlling the lights and sound. Everyone present in the building that day contributed to the musicking. It's actually a pretty cool way to think about music. Small describes several corollaries of the commonly accepted idea that musical meaning resides uniquely in musical objects, referring to mainly classical music scores, of course, all of which Slauson Malone opposes. To address a few of these specifically, one corollary is that musical performance plays no part in the creative process. In an interview with EricTheYoungGawd regarding his EP, Vergangenheitsbewältigung, yes, I do know how to say that right. I took German in high school and for a semester in college. Pow! Slauson Malone stated that the project expressed dealing with painful events, but not ending at pain, instead arriving at a different emotion, an emotion which Slauson didn't actually know until he began his journey of performance.
With the Vergangenheitsbewältigung, I was trying to figure out how to go beyond trauma. You know what I mean? How do you deal with something painful but not end at pain? You know what I mean? How do you come to some other type of feeling or emotion?
Do you know that emotion you were trying to get to? Like that destination?
I know it now.
But at the time you didn't.
At the time I didn't. I think through performing or trying to figure out what performance is to me has brought me to that place for sure.
In this instance, performance shaped a significant part of the creative process of his music, and what he's arguing as a whole through Creator Speak. Another corollary is that musical performance is a one-way system of communication from composer to listener. However, Slauson's performance art expands on his recorded works, adding elements like screaming, extended cello solos, and bodily and facial expressions that add so much to the ideas already formulated in his compositions. The last corollary that I will focus on here is that musical works are autonomous. In the Creator Speak series, it's vital to understand that nothing is autonomous. Every part of the puzzle fits together. The recorded music, the performances, and the book, they all portray Slauson's many beliefs and theories. By examining the first of his musical projects, titled A Quiet Farwell, 2016 to 2018, Creator Speak, we can begin to piece together the bleak story expressed through Creator Speak as a whole.
Smile at the past when I see it.
Slauson himself described this album as pain, 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 pain.
AQF was like very, just like pain, 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 pain. Yeah.
And the first string of words heard in the entire artistic saga is, "The world is coming to an end." From the get-go, we are thrust into a nostalgic and traumatic collage of old black music samples, glitchy hip-hop beats, and gloomy lyrics. Specifically, King Sisyphus of the Atlantic, see page 44, samples the 1966 soul tune There's Nothing I Can Do by Mike and the Sensations. The song does not have an easily danceable beat, as it often pauses and breaks in unexpected places. Still, the inspiration of Slauson Malone's avant-garde jazz rap peers, yes, I am pretentious like that, is apparent in the construction of the instrumental. Over this unconventional beat, featured artists Tafari, I think I'm saying that right, and Slauson flow smoothly, comparing their struggles to the Greek myth alluded to in the song title, in which King Sisyphus is damned in the underworld to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity. When he's close to reaching the top, though, the boulder collapses down the mountain, and Slauson uses his tale as almost proof that his challenges in this world are impossible to overcome. The sample mentioned above says it bluntly. There's nothing he can do about it. A couple of essential motifs throughout Creator Speak are first established in A Quiet Farwell, the first of which is a siren or a scream sound. Slauson personally groups the two together and states that this sound mourns those we've lost to the ills of white fear. This sound also occurs in his two following musical projects, and the slides and groans Nicky Wetherill projects from his cello during the live performances. The second motif that is centered in this album is the line, "Smile at the past when I see it."
Smile at the past when I see it.
This lyric also appeared in his other musical projects and was originated by Caleb Giles, actually, who is featured on the track Smile No. 1. Slauson has expressed that he became obsessed with this line and its implications, saying that, "I feel myself rubbing up against the fabric of our collective history. Things become nonsense, proxies reveal themselves, and the shape of truth becomes flatter. I see us collectively smiling, imagining a place called the past that isn't." In A Quiet Farwell, Slauson exposes the truth of the past to his audience and uses the line, "Smile at the past when I see it," almost as an oxymoron. The second installment to Creator Speak, Vergangenheitsbewältigung, Creator Speak, digs even deeper into this idea of reflecting into the past. Vergangenheitsbewältigung is a word of German origin marked by learning from the past in ways such as honestly admitting that such a past did indeed exist, attempting to remedy as far as possible the wrongs committed, and attempting to move on from that past. In simpler terms, this EP represents the present. This project utilizes more natural and acoustic sounds, although the electronic elements of the previous album are still present. Slauson favors beautiful guitar melodies rather than hip-hop inspired beats, and sings with more genuine pain, I feel. He describes using drugs like weed, Ritalin, and mescaline to cope with his despair in multiple songs. And another common motif, the line, "Are you scared?" or "just scared?" appears the most often in this EP. This motif is heavily intertwined with the scream and the siren sound, as they both revolve around fear. However, while Slauson may be asking white people about their anxiety, which leads to Black pain and death, it's more likely that he's describing his own emotions concerning the agony of the collective past of Black people. In 2022, Slauson released the last installment of Craterspeak, a double single titled 4-Star Craterspeak. This project takes a drastic turn as Slauson creates a desolate soundscape for listeners to pretty much drown in. And this project represents the future, at least from the viewpoint of Slauson, who embodies a very Afro-pessimistic perspective of the world, which I will expand a little bit more on later. Listeners can barely make out the original Smile song format that both the tracks Smile Number 8, JE3's extended Megadance version 4-Star, see page 182, and Smiley number 55 are based on. Those are crazy song titles, dude. This project feels post-humanity. It personifies what exists, or I guess does not really exist, after the world's end. Slauson's grapple with time is also addressed in his book, A Star Like Any Other. Did I mention that I own it yet? Did I mention? As many excerpts of theory discuss how racial issues have transformed from past to present. On page 142, the phrase, "time is racist," enclosed by messily drawn red quotation marks, boldly appears directly before pages of theory on time in relation to Blackness, such as Dissonance in Time, Unmaking and Remapping of Blackness by Damien M. by Damien M. Sojourner. Whew. Having trouble with names today, man. Phrases like time is the lifeblood of the Western civilization and time represents the ideological manifestation of freedom are highlighted in the text. In the entirety of Craterspeak, Slauson makes it apparent that he believes that the concept of time is flawed and it's oppressive, and this section of the book makes it very, very clear. Another central theme exhibited in A Star Like Any Other is this ongoing argument on how to define Black. The earlier pages of the book see Black through a viewpoint of color theory. In an excerpt of All Black Everything by Jared Sexton, an annotation of Slauson's reads, "Black as a non-color versus a color," next to the highlighted phrase, "Our whole system is imposed on us in terms of darkness, lightness, blackness, whiteness, goodness, and badness." As the book proceeds, Slauson examines what Black means in popular culture and what it has meant throughout time. An excerpt titled Performing Blackness discusses how Black came to be identified with, if not identical to, the condition of enslavement and how violence against Black people is necessary to maintain this definition of Black. In an essay titled What is This Black in Black Popular Culture by Stuart Hall, a Jamaican-British cultural scholar and theorist, the definition of Black is examined similarly to the theory incorporated into A Star Like Any Other. He argues in his work that Black does not have a set definition since the Black population is so diverse. However, he does admit that there is, of course, a very profound set of distinctive, historically defined Black experiences that Slauson argues is the definition of Black. A potent example of his viewpoint is a lyric that appears in the songs "The Flying Africans Board the Mothership Zong to colonize the new Nubian planet called X. The world laughs as it turns another degree hotter." See page 44, 127, 102 to 136, and 147. Oh my God! And Smile Number 5, see page 103 and 107, as well as his live performances. In Smile Number 5 and his performance art, Slauson portrays anger in this line as he screams it loudly and forcefully.
And I sow in a spade, and I sow in a spade, we sow into shade.
For context, Spade was used as a derogatory term against African Americans in the mid-1900s. Slauson's pain, shown through the delivery and substance of this line, is rooted in the history of Black people, and the way he shouts these lyrics portrays a feeling of helplessness, like he can't escape from these labels and may never be able to. Another example of historical racism used to categorize Blackness includes references to Fred Hampton's door, both in a song title and a page of A Star Like Any Other. Fred Hampton's door is an art piece consisting of a painted bullet hole-ridden door. It was created to represent an incident where Chicago police murdered a young Black Panther, Fred Hampton, in his bed by literally shooting through his door. The last example I'm going to bring up right now is this incorporation of a Steve Reich piece, Come Out.
I had to open the bruise up and let some of the bruised blood come out to show them.
Which appears in a repeated lyric, Come Out to Show Them. As well as page 178 of A Star Like Any Other, which displays the lyric many, many times and describes the significance of the piece. Daniel Ham's slip of the tongue when he explained what he did to get police to take him to the hospital for treatment when they refused. I had to open the bruise up and let some of the blues blood come out to show them. Reich's 13-minute sound composition, performed originally at a benefit for the retrial of the Harlem Six, pushes this sentence to the point of utter collapse. With these and numerous other examples of Black trauma embedded deeply into creator speak, we can deduce that while Slauson seems to mostly agree with Hall that Black is not really defined by genetics or appearance or culture, he believes that Black is definable by those historically defined Black experiences that Hall himself brings up in his writing. This perspective that Blackness is forever entangled with the painful history of Black people aligns with theories of Afropessimism, as previously mentioned. Afropessimists believe that humanity only exists because of anti-Black violence and hatred. For Black people, there is no escape from oppression because society relies on it to create and uphold the constructs that are in place. In an interview, Slauson Malone had stated that he created Creator Speak after reading Scenes of Subjection by Saidiya Hartman, a book which has extensively contributed to theories of Afropessimism. This book describes the continuous impacts of slavery on Black people and how Black identities have been fashioned from the lasting effects of the chattel slavery period. What's especially interesting in the first chapter is the discussion of the exploitation of Black trauma for entertainment and how it contributes to the dissimulation of suffering through spectacle. It provokes an evaluation of people's consumption of Black artwork, specifically Creator Speak and Slauson's intentions in creating this series. If Hartman argues that this type of art can contribute to Black pain being taken less seriously, I wonder if Slauson might agree with this sentiment, and if so, if he believes he is contributing to the issue through his work. Hartman also references the idea of flesh in the introduction of the book, which Slauson actually inserted a part of into A Star Like Any Other. She states that flesh itself should essentially entitle a person to liberty and freedom. But for Black people, it is used to justify and intensify the suffering other humans put them through. This concept of Black flesh being drastically different from the flesh of other humans is something that Frank Wilderson elaborates on in his book, Afropessimism, which I bought for this essay. To go on a little tangent real quick, this book, Afropessimism, is maybe the best book I've ever read. It pretty much takes political theory to a new lens, because while there's a lot of political theory incorporated in the book, and it is a political theory book, it's kind of explained through this first-person narrative, creative nonfiction kind of genre, which is something I haven't actually seen before in political theory books, although I haven't read many. So, I don't know. I just think it's really fantastic. I highly recommend checking it out. He explains that because Black is the foil of humanity, human capacity, or the power to be a subject of relations, is violently parasitic on Black flesh. Slauson also addresses flesh in The Message 3, Blood, see pages 39, 179, and by, singing,
In the sky, false sense of pride in my skin, in my flesh, in my bone.
which seems to hold little meaning without the context of Wilderson and Hartman. With the knowledge of these theories, though, we begin to uncover an essential theme of Creator Speak, the idea that Black flesh is a characteristic that is irremovable and permanent, and that having pride in it is nearly pointless, as it will by nature harm the people who possess it. Slauson also commented on the idea of Black pride in his performance art, as he's saying,
I can feel it deep inside. This black pride.
in a sarcastic tone that descended lower and became talkative as he reached the phrase Black Pride. It seems as though Slauson believes Black Pride is pointless, as, again, the quality of blackness hurts the people who possess it. Afropessimism provides context for much of the content of Creator Speak. The idea that the world is coming to an end, that, as previously stated, is the first line heard in the entire series of musical projects, is pivotal to Wilderson's arguments in his book. He believes that Afropessimism is a looter's creed, critique without redemption or a vision of redress except the end of the world. The argument is dreary. The only way to solve ongoing issues of oppression and racism towards black people is for the world to literally end. Since society relies on blackness to exist as the opposite of humanity, it would collapse without it. The feelings invoked by this argument are the core of Vergangenheitsbewältigung. Remembering that this EP represents the present and coping with the past, we can add that it also shows the emotional impacts of realizing the hopelessness of Slauson's existence as a black person. Wilderson also displays these feelings in his book's creative nonfiction sections. On page 21, he says, "I was at rest, but I wasn't relaxing. Relaxation is a state of being in the present, living scenes of the present. As a boy, I seldom lived in the present. It hurt too much to be in the present. I dreamed that the present would pass by one day." This is why Hall's essay, while it supports part of Slauson's thesis, provides an opposite argument regarding Afropessimism. In his essay, he refers specifically to black subjects, which Afropessimism argues don't exist at all and are a social construct to uphold white supremacy. Hall even seems to directly call out the depressive nature of these types of theories and his qualms with them. On page 107, he says, "There is a kind of nothing ever changes, the system always wins attitude, which I read as the cynical protective shell that, I'm sorry to say, American cultural critics frequently wear, a shell that sometimes prevents them from developing cultural strategies that can make a difference." Hall makes a good point. If Afropessimism argues that the only hope for the black race to be relieved of its generational trauma and oppression is for the world to collapse entirely, what can anti-racists do to ease racism in the present? Is there literally anything that can even be done? If not, that's really depressing, man. Wilderson says that while the social death of black people is inevitable, it's a construct that they should assume, not support, not deny, simply assume, and then burn the ship or the plantation. However, he then goes on to argue that this action is actually impossible to execute, again leading to a feeling of helplessness. Slauson seems to agree with this extent of Afropessimism as well. Returning to King Sisyphus of the Atlantic, see page 44, the sample Slauson inserts in the middle of the song deliberately says, "There's nothing I can do about it," presumably referring to what Wilderson is saying. Additionally, in his performance, Slauson sang these lyrics himself, instead of just letting the sample play, which I feel is a way of admitting how he really feels inside and showing that he intentionally inserted this sample into his music as a way of representing himself and expressing how he feels. So, what time is it? In Creator Speak, Slauson is telling us that it's time to give up and that the time to take action has passed us by a long, long time ago. Since blackness is defined by historical trauma and this definition is impossible to change, Slauson is urging us to realize the impossibility of the peaceful existence for black people and stop attempting to make it possible. He combines the meaning of Small's term musicking, Hall's theory of the definition of black, Hartman's statements on black pain through history, and Wilderson's belief that black pain is both inescapable and irreversible. There's no telling what could happen if Slauson's thesis was accessed by the greater population and believed to be the truth. But for now, he invites his existing cult-following kind of audience to jump into the crater, the space of nothingness, the collapse of life as we know it, with him, to realize the inevitability of suffering and accept it as a fact.
No matter how hard I try, nothing seems to work. Words still turn.
Hey guys, I don't know if I'm putting this at the beginning or the end of the video yet, so if it's at the beginning, thank you for being about to, how do I say it? Thank you for watching my video in advance, and if you are seeing this at the end, thanks for watching the video. I obviously want to give a disclaimer that, like, I'm white. I think most people can see that pretty damn clearly, but because of that, I will never fully understand any of the stuff I was talking about. The way that I approached this, it was an academic essay that I wrote for media history analysis and theory class that I was taking in the fall of 2023. Nope, wrong. In the spring of 2023. And I pretty much for that essay at least attempted to, and let me know if I am completely screwing that up, but I attempted to just kind of use the theories of Hartman and Wilderson and Small and Hall and Small and Hall, that kind of rhymes, that's funny. I just used their writings and their theories and tried to not really insert any personal opinion. Obviously I have to insert some, and the way that I analyze it is kind of like analyzing it through a lens in which I will only understand because I am my own person and I have my own thoughts and feelings and blah blah blah. But yeah, if I am crossing any lines, stepping over any boundaries, feel free to comment and let me know, and I will pin your comment and make corrections as needed, and yeah, etc. But yeah, just thanks so much for watching. Like, I haven't made a video essay in a long time, and my earlier video essays from like 11th grade are really shitty. So yeah, so I had fun making this. I just loved this essay that I wrote, and I thought it went really well. So I decided, fuck it, make it into a YouTube video essay. Why not? I kind of want to start doing more YouTube stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you like this. I don't know if you guys can see Dakota in the camera. She's been popping in and out. Also, I have a really shitty camera and a really shitty microphone. This doesn't matter. You don't need to know this. We're done. We're done here. I'm done.